challenge to Obamacare, the aftermath of the oil spill, and another one I think is really important is challenging the EPA water quality standards that will cripple the budgets. I mean, I think it'll probably cause us to double our property taxes if we don't challenge it. Then you have, you know, your bread and butter, keeping the people safe, starting with something you know a lot about here, pill mills and pain clinics, and meth labs, gangs, cybercrime, which incorporates not only online predators, but people that are scam artists robbing our senior citizens of their life savings, identity theft. I think, again, something you know a lot about, the next Attorney General certainly needs to have a public corruption unit devoted solely to that issue. Medicaid fraud, we think we're losing somewhere between $1 and $3 billion. That's got to be a priority. It's the fastest growing part of the budget. You can't just let that keep happening. And that's enough to keep you busy there. But there will be other things, and there are other things, but those are some of the ones that I think have to have your attention.
The Obamacare lawsuit, why commit the state to this? I mean, a lot of the legal experts out there say that there's precedent for this. In the case of Medicare and Social Security, that there's these other landmark pieces of legislation. This kind of fits into that rubric. Why commit the expense of the state?
Yeah, well,
energy to this?
I don't agree with it, and I don't think it's about health care. I think it's about freedom. Does the Constitution mean what it says? Does the 10th Amendment mean what it says? The Commerce Clause has never been expanded so far as to force you to pay for something or to penalize you for taking no action. You know, just sitting in your chair and you're going to get penalized. It's not a tax as Social Security is and Medicare. Those are both taxes. I don't think this is a tax at all. And I think.
But if the government can compel you to be part of the national pension system and part of the, old age medical system, if they compel you to do that,
that's through the taxing authority of the federal government. This is not, and the Commerce Clause, insurance has never been viewed as part of interstate commerce, and this would be. If the Commerce Clause is stretched this far, then there is no limit to what the federal government can immerse itself in. And there has to be a bright line. At some point, there's going to be a bright line test where the court will say, this is, the federal government can go no further. And I think this is the case. And it's not as if we're out there on a limb by ourselves. We've got 19 other states that have joined this thing. So this is a legitimate issue that I think will go all the way to the Supreme Court. I, by the way, am the only candidate on the Republican side, at least, that's actually licensed and have practiced before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, also licensed to practice before the U.S. Supreme Court, where I think this will end up.
Why shouldn't people view the challenge by these Republican attorneys general, including ours, as just a political attempt to play to the Republican base? I mean, why would people be wrong to assume that it's entirely politics?
Just read the Constitution. It's as simple as that. It really isn't about health care. It's about the Constitution.
Well, but couldn't people say that this isn't about the Constitution, it's just about politics?
Well, you can say anything, but you can look at the facts, too. And it is about the Constitution. It's about freedom. At some point, we have states for a reason. We have enumerated powers to the federal government for the reason. And the way the Constitution spelled out, the federal government only has enumerated powers, and all other powers are reserved to the people and the states. And that has been, that line has been eroded over time as the Commerce Clause has been stretched further and further beyond its original purpose. And that's why I say this is really the bright line test. And this happens over the course of history. Occasionally we get to this point where the Supreme Court has to draw the bright line, and I think this is it.
Now, you mentioned earlier, if I'm referring to this correctly, that that insurance has never been part of cross-state commerce. Interstate commerce. But if I recall correctly, in the debate over the Healthcare Reform Act, one of the things I think a lot of Republicans were pushing was allowing people to buy insurance across state lines. When that have expanded?
It may very well. It's a good point, and I don't know the answer to that, although it may very well have opened it up to interstate commerce. But right now, insurance is regulated state by state.
Okay. want to ask about the EPA